I suppose, could go to everybody. What is the advantage to the City of Diamondhead as opposed to the way it was? Would anybody like to answer that one? All right, Mr. Holcomb.
The advantage of having a city versus the way that it was before is previously we didn't get to make many decisions. There was nobody who lived in the city of Diamondhead who made a single decision about anything that went on with how things were run here in Diamondhead, with the exception of the members of the POA. But the members of the, excuse me gentlemen, I'm talking back here.
Excuse me.
But the members of the Property Owners Association had some limited abilities in that respect because they could only talk to those of us here and ask our directors and so forth, our supervisors, for help. That was all that was all they could do. We had no great ability to influence anything. And we could see that after Katrina, when the initial response was about cleaning up this area and doing curbside pickup was, oh, you guys are a private city. You know, you have private roads. We're not going to come do that. And it was only because hundreds, maybe even thousands of people out of Diamondhead wrote letters to all their elected representatives and said, this is wrong. Just because we pay for our streets out of our own pocket instead of our taxes, you should still do that. They came along after a while and actually took care of that problem. But for those of you that don't know, after Hurricane Isaac, they said no. And our own Property Owners Association, because we didn't own the roads yet in the city, had to police up all of that stuff, take it down to a site down on the south side, dump it, and then luckily our county supervisors supported us by picking that up and taking that to the dump. If they had not done that, we would have had to either done that ourselves out of our own property owner's budget, or we would have had to pay somebody else to do that for us. That gets tremendously expensive. That would have probably busted the POA's budget or prevented them from doing something else. Now, as a city, we get to have those things provided for us the same as everyone else. That is one of the main things, again, about determining our destiny. We also now we have full-time police force. We have police officers on duty in Diamondhead all the time. Before, we had one police officer on duty 40 hours a week. Other than that, they had to come if there was a problem. Had a very good security force, but unfortunately our security force, they were like going to a gunfight with a knife. They had very little capabilities, and if somebody left Diamondhead, left the POA area, they could not pursue, they could not do anything. So those are just a couple of the things. I mean, I could go on and on for a number of different things, but those are just a couple of the ways in which having a city and allowing us to make our own decisions and to set our own agenda is very important. And as we go forward, we'll find out about it. Just another example would be the problems with stormwater drainage and other things that have not been taken care of. It's one of the reasons that right now Devil's Elbow has a problem with the oxbow down there being blocked because we didn't do things correctly. So I see I'm getting the signal to cut it off back here, so I won't do anything else. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question here is, what happened to the statement that the interim officers would not run for office? I'll give you a couple of minutes to answer that one.
First, I did not say that I would not run for office. I've been told that someone thinks I did. I do not recall ever having said that. Notwithstanding, things changed for everyone over the period that we went for incorporation. And after seeing what is required to be known by the individuals who have to run the city, the complexities of doing municipal government and being a member of the Mississippi Municipal League and going and attending all of the classes that I've attended, I know full well that there's a lot that everyone has to absorb to be effective. So had I made that statement, I would have changed my mind as we went through, because time changes and facts change. I have now 54 of the 60 hours required, or the 60 credits required for my certified municipal official designation. For the period from 2006 to incorporation, we worked at least weekly, or at least twice a month, I should say, on the various complexities of being a city. That included every one of the current council members, as well as about 4 or 5 others that were with us throughout. And we studied what needed to be done. We thought we knew what needed to be done when incorporation came. But we found out, like you do in most education situations, the more you know, you find out how little you know. And we kept growing. So why am I running? Because I think that I have the qualifications, the background knowledge to see us through for the next 4 years. I would enjoy being your mayor for 4 more years, and to be able to complete the project that we've started. Thank you very much.
Can I add one quick thing on that?
Yes.
There were 25, if I remember correctly, 25 public meetings. I was at 24 of the 25. I am the only person who stood up there and said, I have no intention of running. And believe me, at that time, I had no intention of running. As I mentioned earlier, I simply found this really interesting. Now, shoot me if you want, but I find it very interesting to see how it all works. And that's the reason I was running, that I changed my mind. Thank you.
Since we're all being thrown stones at here, when this came up, and we were in 2007 going through this process, we assumed that in 2008 we would submit all necessary paperwork. In 2009 we'd become a city, and by 2013 the next election would come along. Somebody asked me, are you going to run again? I said, shoot, from 2009 to 2013 we'll get everything set up and I can go retire and play golf. That was the only statement I ever made about not running, because that was my plan. I didn't plan to run. I didn't say I wouldn't run. I said I don't plan to run because I plan to be done with this. Things came along. We ended up in 2012 by the time we actually get a city started. In 1 year, I can assure you, I don't feel comfortable walking out the door and saying, here, we're not done with this, but now you've got to take it over. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair because a lot of people don't understand this time that's still involved. Hopefully in the future we'll get to the point that somebody that's working can actually do this job. Right now, anybody who's working thinks they can do this job. They're fooling themselves. They don't have the time to do it and to do it correctly. It's great that they're saying they want to, but they don't have the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the last one of that group on that council that's running again, and I will tell you on a stack of Bibles, those words never came out of my mouth either. Okay? And I agree with what's been said concerning what you need to have in your mind, your experience to do this job. It is not one easy job, folks. You run and start a city without a blueprint, number one. So what are your steps? You depend on other people like a city attorney who has done this before, an urban planner who can help you. But let me tell you, it's not in writing, and it takes a lot of experience to run a city. And I never said to anybody that I wouldn't run.
Now, one more format of the meeting. Are we going to have the questions answered by all the incumbents every time?
Well, I don't figure that question pertains to anybody but the incumbents, because they are the only ones that pertain to that question. This next question pertains to the mayoral candidates. I would think you set the agendas, correct? The mayor sets the agenda for the meeting.
The mayor oversees the agendas, but everyone has input to them, and it's submitted by the city manager, and we go through it.
Okay, this question is simply, why won't you post the agenda with documentation in advance of the city council meeting? The Mississippi Ethics Commission recommended the advance posting. Does that come through your office, through the
First
city
off,
manager, or how does it come through?
First off, there's always a misunderstanding of what form of government we have. We have a council manager form of government. The city manager is hired by the council, and the city manager does all of the administrative running of the city, all of it. The council hires the city manager. They may hire the city clerk, which we've chosen to do, and they hire the judge and the attorney. We can also hire the auditor. We also hire the auditor. Now, getting back to posting the agenda, which seems to be a concern. The process of getting to the meeting is an iterative process. 10 days before the meeting, the request for council actions are submitted to the clerk. The clerk takes those in, and by the Tuesday before the council meeting and before our work session on Thursday morning, she assembles that proposed agenda and publishes it on the Tuesday. That is the agenda that we deal with at the meeting on Thursday. At the meeting on Thursday, we perfect the agenda. We go through every item, every presentation, and we
Excuse
decide.
me, where is it published? You said it's published on Tuesday, where?
It's published on the front door. We have the full agenda at the front desk. The council members get that agenda, and it's also published on our website. No problem.
That's not true.
Then we have we go through the agenda on Thursday, I should say. It is turned over to the clerk again. Those items will continue on. She reviews it, and over the weekend, she publishes it and puts it online. It's available for pickup and review at our place, at our office on Monday morning, the full agenda. It's then taken up on the evening at 6 in the evening. That's the process of the agenda. It's published online, it's published on our front door of the City Hall, and it's also available at the front desk for review by anyone that comes up.
The fact of the matter
Are there any other candidates who would like to address this question as to
I'll
what
address
they
it.
would do?
Can I make a comment on that?
If we're candidates, please, sir. If you have a question, put it in writing, please.
I put it in writing.
All right, then I just haven't gotten to it yet. It's in the stack. If you wrote it, I will get to it, I promise.
That was my question. And I didn't get a good answer.
Maybe you didn't get an answer that he likes.
No, the agenda, I've seen posted an hour before the meeting, okay, at City Hall. There is no documentation with it.
He's simply wrong, ma'am. The agenda is available to him at the same time it becomes officially available to me.
An hour
Okay.
before the meeting.
No, that's not correct, unless there's something.
When has the agenda been consistently available over the last 6 months?
As
For
much as
council
possible
meetings.
on Friday.
So it hasn't been consistently available.
As much as possible. Stuff happens at the last second where something has to be changed or added.
So how do you come to a meeting prepared if you don't have an agenda?
Because the things that have been added or changed are small.
And
The big things are done and they publish it on Friday and it's available to everybody.
So
The
everybody,
documentation for the most part is not available either because it's not prepared.
guys, look real quickly. The agenda issue has been an issue, and quite frankly, when you're in a work session, that's when that agenda is getting developed. And if the agenda is not available far enough in advance on a regular, consistent basis, the community doesn't know what's going to go on at the meeting. The community can't voice their concerns, and councilmen cannot possibly be prepared, having read volumes of paper that it takes for some of these ordinances. They just can't be prepared. The agenda has got to be ready, and insofar as the way a council manager form of government works, I'm very, very familiar with that. It is not the form of government I would have chosen, and it's not the predominant form of government in Mississippi for many reasons. The mayor's hands are frequently tied. There's not a lot of authority and responsibility vested in the mayor. There's too much authority vested in the city manager. And we're in a situation where we're paying
I
the
believe
price
we
of
are
our
off topic, Mr. Schaefer. We are talking the agenda, not the thing. We have one more response.
For anybody who thinks this has been easy trying to put this stuff together, it's not been easy. And trying to keep everything on key and on spiel and getting it out on the appropriate time is very difficult. We've really done a great job given the volunteers and other people that have been working on this. Now, if we just had an allegation that the city council members cannot have been prepared by going to a work session or a council meeting at any time, and I take offense at that because I have always been prepared, I've always had the information, and I've always read it all in time to be prepared for a meeting, and I think the other council members would agree with that. So I think you're off base on that in your allegation there, Mr. Schaefer.
I add one thing to that? I'm sorry, I would agree with that, because I can tell you, we have spent hours and hours reading everything before you get, by the time you get into a work session, you've already read the stuff. Then between the work session and the regular meeting, you review it again. So that is just total.
I have never voted on anything that I have not read thoroughly. And,
That wasn't the question.
well, the question, that's been brought up. and
That
that's been
wasn't the
brought up.
question. We're strictly talking
It
agenda.
has to do with the agenda, ma'am, and we're accused of not reading what's in the agenda, and I take offense at that.
This next one, I think we can just have a show of hands. Just from the candidates, all I want is a show of hands, no comments. That's what the question asked for. Please ask all candidates if they are in favor of continuing the City of Diamondhead or disbanding it. So I'd like to know, is there anyone in here who is in favor of disbanding the city?
Well, I said before, like, I'll vote how the people want.
Beg pardon?
I said before in my speech, I'll vote how the people want, so mine's a little
That is
gray.
exactly what you said. All right. So I guess I need a show of hands of all of those candidates who are in favor of continuing the city. And that seems to be consistent. Okay. Why are we forbidden to put up political signs since the Supreme Court deemed such a rule as unconstitutional? Now, is that a city rule or is that a POA rule? I think we can answer that in just one question.
It's a two-part question. Part one has to do with the municipality. Our municipality, as well as other municipalities, restrict the signage on public property, and that is consistent throughout. The POA restricts what you can do on POA property, and I would defer that to the POA member, Mr. Schaefer.
The political sign ordinance is obviously a very hot topic. As you know, for the last 25 or more years, the POA covenants have been enforced by the Property Owners Association. Political signs are not allowed. Since the POA transferred the streets, easements, and rights-of-way to the city has developed a sign ordinance. Covenants and ordinances are very different. Covenants are like a private contract or a deed restriction. Ordinances have to be constitutional. The city cannot prevent the right to free speech. Although the letter the city sent to all the candidates and the sign ordinance was very confusing. And why that was sent the way it was, I don't know, but it insinuated that you could put a certain size sign in certain areas. And then people in the city contacted the POA, furious, telling the POA to get those signs up, cite those people, take care of this issue. Well, if the sign is in the right-of-way of the easement, the POA no longer has authority to do that. The city has also criticized the POA for not reducing the dues enough, criticized the POA for not getting rid of enough security.
That's off topic.
And, well, it is on topic because the city wanted the POA to use our security to enforce
No, I believe this
the
was
sign.
just signs, Mr. Schaefer. I'm sorry.
Can I add just one quick thing to it? The right of, you cannot put signs, and I don't know any municipality that allows it. You cannot put signs, any signs, on the right-of-ways. Right-of-ways are generally from wherever the light pole is on this side to the light pole on the other side in general. If you let people start putting signs on right-of-ways, then anybody can put a sign on a right-of-way. And you just open up everything. I don't know any other places that actually allow it.
What about in our yard?
Your yard is a different situation. That's a POA. If you didn't have a POA here, you certainly would be putting signs in your own yard. I agree. I have signs.
Because they do allow signs, yard signs and stuff on the weekend. Is that not an issue?
I was under the impression that we did not allow yard signs anytime. Am I wrong? POA member, POA sign. Can we have signs anytime? Yes or no?
For no, signs
I
and
have asked Mr. Schaefer if he is on the board. Can we, yes or no, have signs?
open house signs for real estate agents are allowed on the weekend. Not for sale signs, not political signs.
Thank you. They are not allowed.
About garage sale signs.
About flags that look like signs.
Okay, we've got one here that is addressed to all the candidates. Boy, this one can take the rest of the afternoon. How about just a show of hands on this one? How do the candidates feel about a casino on the south side of Airport Drive across from the Harbor House?
Let the people decide. Again.
All right, can I have a show of hands, candidates only, that are for a...
Be a more definition. I mean, that's where. Show me on a map what you're talking about. I mean, that's...
Easy answer.
It's pretty clear across from the harbor houses on the north side of Airport Drive.
Nope.
All right,
I'll answer.
we'll move on to the next one.
Let the people decide it.
All right.
It's really easy.
I would like a show of hands of those that would approve any type of casino on the south side. This is not
If it's voted on by the people, yes.
It's
First, I would never
Airport
approve
across from Harbor
any
Drive.
type of casino on that
I'd like
side.
hands up only
Okay.
if you are in favor of a casino on the south side.
Not easy. Show of hands thing.
Airport Drive across from Harbor House. That's the question. I cannot rewrite the question.
Get into that.
You've had one show of hands.
Maybe I can clarify this.
I am simply asking this question.
That's a question we're going to answer. If the property is zoned for commercial use, would you vote in favor of a casino in Diamond Head? I would.
Where?
Doesn't matter where. If it's zoned for a casino, would you vote in favor of it?
Anywhere in Diamond Head.
Yes.
That's not what I'm saying.
On the south side.
If
Anywhere.
it's zoned for casinos, would you vote in favor of a casino?
Restate the question.
You said commercial, not casino.
If you want to answer the question, answer the question.
I am in favor of casino on the south side of Diamond Head.
Zoned property.
I am in favor of that,
Okay.
depending on where it is.
Okay. All I can do, sir, is read the question. That's all I can do. What? I got two for it, and nobody else raised their hand at all.
Because that question was leading.
Okay, I have two questions here that are roughly
The 18th crazy.
the same. It says, when will the city advertise for city manager position, judge, and so forth? The other, will the current administration provide copies of the public advertisement for the positions of city manager, police chief, and public works director, as well as a list of all candidates interviewed for these positions? Anybody on the board care to answer?
Moot point.
It is a moot point. You've already hired them.
It's a moot point. We've hired in accordance with the laws of the state of Mississippi. Period.
Okay, enough said on that one.
I think they should advertise the positions.
Let's stay civil, please. Have all the candidates who have attended a work session raise their hands? All the candidates who have attended a work session, I suppose that's city council work session. Okay.
You're not a candidate there.
That's what they got. Don't really understand this one. Do you support Diamond Head existing golf community, specifically 2 courses? I suppose that, I'm not going to suppose anything. Do you support Diamond Head existing golf community, specifically 2 courses?
Keeping 2 courses, I mean, is that kind of?
I'm reading the question. I cannot read anything into it.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else want to answer that? Do you support that? I'm not going to read into anyone else's question. Okay. This is a question, it's not mine. Why did you hire Richard Rose, who had been fired from several cities? Just reading questions. Why did you hire Richard Rose, who had been fired from several cities, as city manager?
Okay, misinformation mania rules the game. Mr. Rose was never fired from any city, nor multiple cities. Mr. Rose was with Gulfport City Council for 15 years. He was with the City of Diamondhead, where he took them from having a cash on hand balance the day he took over of $7,400. Within 9 months, he had a surplus of $1.3 million. You can read that in the Sun Herald. It's documented. When it came to the end of his contract negotiations being what they were and internally, it was not renewed. The City of D'Iberville, as documented in the Sun Herald, was looking for a hometown boy to be their city manager. When the Sun Herald questioned that and put it down, the individual seemed to drop off the map. That was Mr. Bobby Uteris. Uteris. He withdrew. They then hired another city manager. What was his name? What? Michael Janis. You may have read about him in the paper. He's no longer there for one reason or another. Mr. Rose is extremely experienced. If you've ever been to the Promenade Mall, he's pretty much responsible for bringing that into D'Iberville and the economic development that they had. When he left, they had over a $3 million surplus on hand. I really am tired of the false accusations that some people in this community have and take great glee in spreading around as fact. Thank you very much.
You might want to just stand right there. I believe this has turned into the Chuck Ingram show. Why did the city spend public monies to cut down perfectly good pine trees in front of the new city hall? And number 2, would the city or POA give me a permit to cut down similar trees in my yard if they are not endangering my property?
The trees that were recently cut down were diseased. In some cases, we had to take out a couple of trees in order to allow the canopy to grow of the more healthy trees to give us a better show in the area. We also are working on the drainage there, and we're making that into developing it into a town green area. There were no trees that were cut unnecessarily, and those of you who are gardeners know that sometimes you have to thin things out because oftentimes trees grow too tight and are not in an appropriate location. That's what goes on there.
Do you know anything about a permit to cut down similar trees in their personal yards? City or POA?
Do we have that in the ordinance? Is that
Well,
There's a tree
POA
requirement.
controls as part of that, because I had to do that when I did some clearing on my lot to get approval. But, you know, the city would be, all depends on what kind of permit you're talking about. I mean, I can't, it's not that easy.
The city doesn't have specific permits preventing someone from cutting down a tree on their yard.
There is some restriction.
There are some restrictions. There are some restrictions. Best thing to do is to go to the POA and go to the city and ask specifically what you want to do, and they can tell you. I mean, I don't have the whole ordinance memorized.
All right, so that will take care of that. Thank you all. We have as our project this year with the Hancock County Republican Women's Club, we donate monies to the Hancock County Food Pantry. If you feel so led today, we do have a jar up here. I do appreciate all of you attending today. I hope you are not leaving confused but thoughtful. I hope you've learned something. I know I have. Beg your pardon? Just a little bit. And I do appreciate all of y'all being with us this afternoon.